Yes, this is ray tracing all over again.
Hello and welcome to episode 110 of the Lazy Couch Podcast. We're here to give you all you need to know about consumer tech, the internet, and virtually everything about the future. My name is Geoff Kim, and I see your Schwartz is as big as mine.
My name is Kelvin Lee, and hey, welcome to TLC 110.
110, yeah. Is that a bit of a milestone?
I can't do it. I can't match the Zuck's cadence. I just can't.
Yeah, explain that one.
Because okay, so this week we're talking about the Oculus Connect 5 event, and that's the way the Zuck opens the whole event.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He goes, hey, welcome to OC5. It's such a weird cadence. It's such a slow, paced out cadence.
I mean, last year I was saying that he was trying to copy Obama. I think there's less of that in 2018. He's got his own cadence. Would you agree? Yeah.
It's slow though.
Slow.
I don't know why that is. I mean, was he ever talking fast in the past?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know we're going to talk about Oculus Connect event that happened last week, but there's some breaking news. Kinda. Here it is.
Breaking news now. There are reports filtering through this morning that Facebook and Instagram are right now experiencing global connection issues. In other words, they're down.
Thank you very much, Channel 9 News there.
I wasn't quite sure if they were down. You know what I mean? I just couldn't figure it out.
In other words, down, yes. Now, that was breaking news if we actually did go ahead and record on Wednesday night. But unfortunately, it's Friday night. Instagram did go down, and I was freaking out. Less like the whole world. Were you? On Wednesday afternoon?
I mean, you texted me, and immediately I checked Instagram, and you told me to go to Twitter, and my God, the tweets were funny.
Yes, here's what the Queensland Police Department tweeted. Instagram being down is not a police matter. You can post photos of food again soon enough. Hashtag no filter.
I want to know what the boost was for Twitter in terms of traffic.
Right, it would have been double.
Yeah, easy, right? I mean, people are saying things like, "Oh, influencers now don't have a job."
Yeah, for a whole hour, because apparently Instagram. I know the report said Facebook as well, because I think that was actually a clip from several months ago when they were both down.
Really?
So that's bit of a Sorry about that. Wasn't the actual clip, but I found it somewhere.
Any reason? Did they come up? Did they come out to say why?
Well, could it be related to the fact that the two founders are leaving Instagram? Is it a bit of a coincidence?
Ew.
And let's quickly just cover that, because that's probably the biggest news in social. And you got to say the word social like that now. So Kevin Systrom and Mike Krieger in 2009, I think, created Instagram. Believe it or not, they started out as I think they wanted to be like the next Foursquare, but they sort of pivoted to a beautiful photo filter type thing. I did go to his talk back in 2012, South by Southwest, Kevin Systrom. Publications like The Verge, they've been talking a lot about this sort of thing. Would you know? Have they announced why they're leaving? Like, do you know the reason, Kelvin?
No, I mean, obviously, I've seen the rumors of them and Zuck not getting along, but no.
I mean, there's stuff like, IGTV is not doing very well. You would think, that's a reason why they should stay and try to, see that out. Also, there's been stuff about Facebook integrations, in that if you cross-post from Instagram to Facebook, did you know that you no longer get posted via Instagram tag?
Really?
Yeah, because I noticed that the other day, because I'm seeing a lot of photos here by people who don't normally post to Facebook, and they kind of look like Instagram photos, and I'm looking for that Instagram tag, but I couldn't see it. And also, apparently Facebook are really pushing hard to introduce the regram feature, which is quite controversial. So maybe that's all about to happen, and that could be pushed out. Casey Newton, however, from The Verge, said this on The Vergecast last week.
it used to be that Kevin Systrom and Mark Zuckerberg worked together very closely, and Kevin Systrom would describe Zuckerberg as a member of Instagram's board. During the big reshuffle that happened in the spring, Chris Cox became Kevin Systrom's boss, and all of a sudden, Systrom was getting a lot less FaceTime from Zuckerberg, and I imagine was probably getting a lot more requests and suggestions from Chris Cox. And so I think just sort of changing up that dynamic where you used to feel like the CEO of your own company, and now you just feel like middle management, I think could have very easily made him say, the hell with it.
Yep. Flip the table and walk away.
Wow, I'm just looking up Chris Cox right now. So he's the chief product officer at Facebook. He's only 1 year. He's 1 year older than me. That's kind of depressing. And let's see. He looks after the company's worldwide product management, design, and marketing function.
Yes. So I think he was there until they were still there, but then I think they've just appointed someone new. Just gonna quickly look that up. Yeah, it's not on this article, but yeah, there's another one. But yeah, that's your little Instagram news for the week. I think changes are afoot in terms of the product. They might scrap IGTV.
I don't think they will. I think that's sort of like Google getting rid of Google Plus, right? I mean, all they did was just change up what it stood for and a couple of the features and everything. I just think it needs better integration with Instagram, getting more people on board. I don't think it's a failure yet. I just think that against the likes of, YouTube, you really have a lot up against you. Yeah. Before we kick off to the main part of the show, I think this is a good time to talk a bit about the show. So at the start of every show, we take a bit out of the show. It's usually taken out of context because that's why it's funny. So there's a bit of a clip that starts at the start of the show. Last week, I made a comment about, my wife would struggle using an Android phone. Now, I just want to quickly say, that's about moving from iOS to Android. It's not about gender. It's not about anything like that. And that is all the airtime I'm going to give it because we received a little bit of feedback about that. And I just want to put that to bed.
Yep. Noted, Kelvin. Yes. I mean, yes, that's something that we say. And I think I'm to blame as well, if there is anyone to blame, because I sort of took that clip and featured that at the start of the episode as well. So, I mean, like,
no, it's yeah, but like people who listen to the show who know us just would take the time to know us.
Yes,
really.
Yes. But it does go to show that this particular medium of podcasting, it is quite intimate. It could be like I'm just on the phone with you, chatting about stuff. We're not necessarily thinking about, how is this going to be taken? Like, will this be taken out of context? I mean, maybe we should sort of think about that a little bit more because it is a public medium. But
no, yeah, totally. I made this. I've been thinking about this, and I was like, oh my god, this is what celebrities feel like. But you're totally right. And I mean, you think about if we apply for jobs or if we people search for us on Google, all these things come up and. But if anything, I think, we have nothing to hide, really, in the sense that this is who we are. People will know that there is work us, but there's also us. So, yeah.
But I do want to also say that any feedback is good. So,
totally. And that's what we totally want.
Yes.
I don't think I said totally enough, but
All right, let's go to Oculus Connect number 5, the 50 of the Oculus event by Facebook. And what a show, Kelvin. I spent hours going through all the keynotes.
As you do.
And also some of the separate breakout sort of talks as well. So not sure how long we're going to spend talking about this, but we've got a bunch of clips lined up. I mean, virtual reality, because this is what it's all about, Oculus. It's something that's interested both of us for a couple of years at least.
Yeah, definitely.
And I don't know if other podcasts or technology podcasts cover VR events as we do. So we want to get right into it. Now, Mark Zuckerberg. Hey Zuckerberg. This is how he introed the keynote.
Hey everyone, welcome to OC5. All right, so last year we talked about how our long-term goal was to help get 1 billion people into virtual reality. So let's start off by checking in on how that's going. All right. We have the saying at Facebook that the journey is 1% finished. And in this case, maybe not even quite.
So, Kelvin, you might have noticed that my version of that intro was heavily edited.
To speed things up.
Because there were a lot of pauses in there. Because, I mean, okay, when the crowd started laughing, he was meant to get that reaction because it was only showing that it was only 1% of the way of 1 billion people in VR. 1% of 1 billion is still 10 million. So, you know, that's not nothing, but I guess on the Facebook scale, it's nothing. But yeah, I think he's just like reiterating that there's a long way to go. I mean, I always say once you get to 1%, that's half the journey, because in the exponential scale, that's what it is. So Zuckerberg, what did you think about his performance apart from his cadence?
I think it felt rehearsed. And I think that's just the kind of guy he is. I think he's tried, over the years to do a few off-the-cuff things on Facebook Live and things like that, and I don't think it's done him I think it's done him disservice, because he is intelligent. I think there's no doubt about it, but he comes off a little awkward, and I think he needs, people around him to help him and to coach him in these things, because, public speaking is not natural to anyone.
I think because we talk about him pretty much every couple of months, and we've seen him in different situations. I think if we definitely compared him, from his early days, say 5 years ago, even, like, improvement would have been out of sight, right? What he's doing now is almost presidential. I think there's definitely a few of his little tics and little laughs that he does, slightly uncomfortable for the audience, but I think it's going to get there. But yeah, he's the face of obviously Facebook, but also Oculus. He was bought for $2 billion from Palmer Luckey, and then eventually got pushed out of the company due to his little misgivings. But look, did you get to watch the whole thing, or just some of the highlights?
So I watched a lot of the summary around the whole thing. It was just too long, man.
Yeah, the first day keynote went for almost 2 hours. Now that straight away he sort of announced the big product, so I think I'll just play the clip where he announced the new thing.
All right, so if we can bring these three qualities together.
Sorry, I should add. I was going to add something there. So yes, so for the past couple of years, they've been talking about this Project Santa Cruz, right? Which is the standalone thing. So we've owned a Rift for. I think I've owned it since last two Decembers ago, so almost 2 years for me. And I've sort of just gone back into it, but the thing is that it's tethered. You don't feel the full freedom of movement. So yeah, they've been talking about this standalone device, which is as good as the Rift experience. That's the thing. So the three things he's going to talk about is that it's standalone. It also has hand presence, but also has 6 degrees of freedom, which other standalone devices don't. So this is the new thing that they announced.
All right, so if we can bring these three qualities together into one product, then we think that is the foundation for the ideal form factor for VR. And at Connect, for the past couple of years, you've heard me talk about Project Santa Cruz. And today, we have some news for you.
Oh, yeah.
I am excited to announce Oculus Quest.
Whoa. Quest.
I like that guy. The guy who went, oh yeah.
I think that was John Carmack.
Really?
No, it wasn't. I'll talk about him in a second, but
yeah.
First of all, the name, the Quest.
Yes.
What do you think?
I think when you think Quest, well, for nerds like us, I guess, I think Zelda for some reason. I think I think games. I think open world games.
Yep.
And which basically means it works. I'm thinking open world.
Okay. Yep. So like you're on a quest, you in that sort of situation. What do you call that? The MMO.
Right.
Now, so the three things. So the first one was the Rift, which is the high end. You need a powerful PC with a big GPU, good GPU anyway. Also the Oculus Go, which was announced. I think was that earlier this year.
I think it was about a year ago.
About a year ago. Okay, so that's it's almost like a phone VR thing without the phone. And then this is that thing in the middle, right? So in between those two things. So mid-range, specs that didn't go into it too much. I know we may have some clips around. I think you might have a clip on.
Yeah, I do have a clip on what the specs are.
Yep. I don't have them offhand, but yes, they're not the highest end.
Yeah, but let's go through it now. That's
Okay, right.
So I've got a clip from a YouTube channel called Tested. These guys are pretty hardcore. They're big VR fans. I believe one of the hosts on that show has been to all Oculus Connect events. So they're interviewing Sean Liu, who I believe is the product manager for Quest. So let's see what's in this thing.
The keynote was really interesting, but it didn't list many tech specs. So let me at least ask you.
Ask away.
So you mentioned that it has the same lenses as the Go.
Yes.
Can we assume the same displays?
It is not the same display.
It's not the same display?
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's a new display. These are our highest resolution yet. Per eye, it's 1600 by 1440 pixels. It's also mirrors Rift style, where you can actually adjust the lens distance.
Right.
So it has an IPD adjust
Right.
on the device. So it's different panels, different resolution, but same.
Is it RGB
optics.
stripe or is it pentile?
It's an OLED.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, great. I mean, great blacks then, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
great blacks, great contrast.
What about processor?
It's a Qualcomm Snapdragon 835.
So pushing out more pixels and doing a little more computing because of the inside out.
Yeah.
Are there subprocessors for that inside out?
No, it's just the Qualcomm Snapdragon 835. We've partnered a lot with Qualcomm. We've worked internally a lot, really to get the end-to-end stack to be great. So we've worked on optimizing all of our tracking algorithms, making sure we free up enough compute for developers, and we apply a lot of the same learning. So again, we're going to have all of the chromatic aberration correction now that we just announced for Oculus Go. That'll also be an Oculus Quest. We'll do all the fixed foveated rendering. This is going to be running at 72 hertz. So because we own that stack end to end, we think we can do a lot with it.
Yeah, they own the stack. If you didn't get that, such a technical guy, right? I mean, the guy was talking about pin strips or something, and I've never even heard of that.
Yep.
And he was confidently saying it was OLED. Now, do you want to have a go at explaining inside-out tracking? Because I know it's something you've spoken about in the past, and you're
Sure.
quite passionate about it.
So a lot of the high-end devices at the moment are outside in, meaning that you need external trackers outside your body to be tracking your head position and the hand position as well, actually. So when they say inside-out tracking, and Facebook or Oculus have termed a new thing called Oculus Insight, which is a bit of a thing as well. But basically, you have cameras on the headset. So, like, if we were to describe the headset or the HMD, it kind of looks a bit like the HTC Vive. I feel like it doesn't have those those studs like the HTC, but there's 4 cameras, I guess on the corners of the headset, and they're sort of looking out. I guess that's a camera that tracks your environment. So in the room that you're in, it's similar to the Magic Leap in that it's just with 3D technology and computer vision, it could sort of make out tables, it could make out the walls, it could make out the flooring, the ceilings, what have you. So that's what the cameras are for, but also they track your hands. So if we talk about the touch controllers, very similar to the ones that we have on the Rift, but the ring around your hand that's on the Rift is sort of reversed, right? So it's on the inside of your hands. The ring is inside of your hands so that your headset can see them. Yeah, so it's hard to describe, but it is very interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, what they also mentioned during the event was that the new controllers are compatible with the Rift, which is quite interesting.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, it is compatible. So I don't know if it adds a layer of extra sort of sensitivity to provide better motion. But yeah, I think you and I jumped on the Oculus, was it last night or 2 nights ago? And because it's been a while, I had to reset my entire Guardian system again. And so to just add to that a bit further, what you do is you basically draw a virtual circle around you to let the cameras know where your table is, where your chair is, so you don't run into it. So that's another way of explaining it. So instead of it being cameras facing you, the cameras are facing out.
Yeah, so there are a lot of cameras involved in this technology because it needs to map things. So, they talk a lot about safety. So you don't want to be running into things when you've got like a blindfold is essentially, on your head. So you need to know where the boundaries are. I think in my space here, I do get the walls come up. It's like a virtual wall that appears in the VR environment for us. And I think I run into it a lot more, like here compared to my previous house apartment. Trying to figure out why. I think it's because I think technically I have more space here, but I seem to be running into the wall a bit more.
Yeah, I think I've my space here is a little bit smaller than the good old TLC studios. So I've maybe got a little bit of like maybe 1x2 space, and I'm hitting the wall a lot as well. But it's a lot more forgiving than when it first started. I think remember when it first started, I had to clear like a lot of the living room to get by a 2x2. I think this is probably a good segue to get into the 6 degrees of freedom.
Yes.
So let's see what that is and why that's important to the Oculus Quest.
And I think it's really important that you explain this, what 6 degrees means, because I think there are still some people out there who aren't as deep into VR as we are. 6 degrees means basically you don't just get to look around as you do in the Oculus Go. You get to move around. You can walk around your room as you can with the Oculus Rift. And that goes for the controllers as well. They are tracked in 6 degrees all around your space. So you have essentially a form of hand presence in virtual reality.
Yeah, so the other thing I realized when I was watching the event was some of the spaces that were at this, was it in Palo Alto? We were trying to figure this out, but we couldn't. In this huge convention hall, because you're not tethered to a computer, your play space just became, whatever space you can find, and you don't need a computer, which is amazing.
Yes, so I think, we might talk about it a bit later, but it's almost combining AR technology because what AR, you need to be able to map your environment to be able to place things in that environment, right? The real environment, the virtual into the real. So for similar reasons, to be able to move around freely without having to think about running into things, it's also mapping your actual environment. That's the inside out part. So just think of it like that, like how you track your environment is from the inside, from your body to the outside. So
you know what's really funny? Yeah. I remember that when I don't know, this was probably episode 50 or something, and we were looking at AR, MR, and VR, and we were trying to explain the differences. And I think now the lines are blurring. I really think that MR, VR, and AR will just come together one day.
MR is literally the blurring of those two. Like it's reality. Exactly. So it's like doing both, but then bringing in your real objects into your virtual objects, virtual environment. That's what mixed is. I think, my hero, Michael Abrash, who gave a 30-minute lecture on the first day about some of that, which I'll cover a bit later. He's all in on the whole, everything's going to be combined in the next few years sort of thing.
Before we jump to that, let's quickly just close off the hardware side of it, because I think the guys that tested also had a look at the actual headset itself, and they had a couple of questions for Sean, and he was quite coy about a few things.
Ooh. And I noticed on the side, it looks like a USB-C port.
Yes,
is that
for charging. That's right.
Also data transfer?
You can transfer files, so you can load your local media files if you want to take them with you on the go.
Does that behave like the Go does, where it shows up as a drive and you would just drag it over there?
So similar. You can just transfer files, just through like the Android file transfer system.
But now at USB-C speeds.
Yes, that's right.
Great.
Yeah.
That's right.
I know these are prototypes right now, but I also noticed 2 what looks like analog headphone jacks, one on either side. What's the thinking behind that?
We do have a lot of audio solutions that are up and coming. You can take a few guesses. Yeah.
Really?
So there are 2 audio jacks apparently at each end, and the way Sean was trying to explain it is if you plug in one, it will work in stereo. So he hasn't really explained why you need 2. I'm guessing this is for 5.1 channel or 7.1. I'm not entirely sure. But I don't see how that would work. Like, do you plug in something on top of it? You wear a cap? I can't figure it out.
Well, at least, it's a bit of a signal to the fact that they're going to add on things as we go on, perhaps. And it'll be interesting to see the product cycle as well, the recycle of the Quest. I mean, obviously they won't bring out something new next year or maybe even 2 years, but like 3 years, is that enough? I don't know, because like the other thing about this is that why isn't the Quest the Rift 2? So like imagine being able to, do the high end stuff tethered, but then once you untether yourself, just walk around with it. You know what I mean? So that would be amazing, right?
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Use like, so basically have like a two-stage thing. Like if you want to walk out the house, walk out the house. No, don't do that, by the way. But if you want to walk away from a computer, you can do that. No, it
Yeah.
makes total sense. But I think it's about separating the who you want to target
From a marketing sense, I get it. Yes. Yeah.
The other interesting thing is it runs on Android,
Yeah. How?
because he was talking about the Android file system.
Okay.
Don't know. They must have ported the Oculus Home, Oculus software onto Android,
Alright.
and why not, right? It's an operating system that's there, but also it's kind of weird that you can't transfer files wirelessly. You have to connect the USB-C port. Just a few minor things.
Well, is that
but I
what
think they'll
he
polish that.
said? Though? I mean, like that wasn't my take on it, because the question was asked: was it, can you transfer files to it using the USB? He said yes. Doesn't mean you can't.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
No, I get that.
Yeah, because that would be pretty poor. Now
yeah, that would.
we talked about it a little bit already, but the main thing is that it's free to move around. It's a standalone headset. I just, when I've been going back to VR the last couple of weeks, I really felt that wire sort of dragging me down. You know, when I'm playing Beat Saber, it's a sort of game where you have to move around quite a bit, and just like sometimes my hand got like caught in the wire. This is really annoying. But I think this is the sort of the silver bullet. Like this is the thing that's gonna make it go mainstream, along with the pricing. So $399 US would be the lowest end, which is great, I think, because you don't need a PC at all. You can just put it on and start using it.
Yeah, and I think what they're also realizing is less and less people have PCs. I'm just doing a quick currency conversion here. 400 USD is about 565 AUD. So if you add the usual inflation, I would say 650.
Yeah.
Yeah, think about that.
Okay. Yes, and it's spring northern hemisphere. So what's that, like March, April?
Yeah,
like really northern territory. So about March, April, May, I reckon. So let us know what you think. Are you excited? Would you get this? Is this the thing that you've been waiting for? Have you been holding out from getting the Go? Because like for those that got the Go, like now you're like, well, should have waited for the Quest sort of thing. Yeah. But
yeah, and I think on the software end, and games and things like that, I think they're asking for developers to create everything from the Rift is going to work on the Quest, but obviously the Go is a totally different hardware, so it's not going to work for them. But I think it's going to open up a lot more games, which is amazing.
All right, so I think went through some of the specs, the fact that it's standalone and you can move around. Let's talk about some of the differentiation between that and the Go. So I've got John Carmack here, who's actually the CTO of Oculus. But his name might sound familiar to you because he's actually the father of modern gaming. No?
What?
Have you heard of John Carmack? Okay, so he pretty much invented Quake with Michael Abrash.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he also did Doom as well. So he, back in the...
So wait, they owned ID, basically.
He started ID. He started ID.
Ah, got
John
you.
Carmack, yeah. So he's heavily based around 3D graphics. He wrote the algorithm for shadow volumes, according to the Wikipedia. And he's a kind of CTO. He's a bit like Elon Musk, I think, because he gets his hands dirty. During his keynote on day 2, he talked about how he coded the dark mode, which is not yet released yet in Oculus. So he did that himself, just because I think someone asked him to do it. But yeah, he spoke about everything and anything and everything for 90 minutes. This is the opposite to all the sort of flashy presentations. It was literally him on a podium. He had an iPad Pro in front of him, just with his notes. There was no, PowerPoint at all. So that's the kind of guy he is. So just
Wow,
that is a setup. And he talked about the Oculus Go strategy, or the lack thereof. So let's hear what he has to say.
We did not have a really clear strategy at Go launch for exactly what Go was supposed to be, who it was supposed to be for. And we have crystallized that a lot more now, where Go is our device that is 80% media, 20% gaming. Quest, on the other hand, is exactly the opposite, 80% gaming, 20% media.
Yeah, so I think that's the best way to distinguish between the two. So yeah, what they're finding is on the Go, people are using the Go for Netflix, and just sort of viewing other YouTube and stuff like that, rather than getting into games. Just because you don't have the 6 degrees of freedom, or sixth off, it's officially known as now. They just use that term all the time. Yes, he had a story about how he was on an airplane, and guess what he decided to do? He put on his Oculus Go on the plane, right? So he's going to make a bit of a scene. Yeah. And the guy who was sitting next to was like so curious. He's like what are you seeing there? And so he gave it to him and had a go. And then apparently on the same flight, or straight away, he used the airplane Wi-Fi to order the Oculus Go.
That's great.
Like straight away. So I want to share my experience with VR, but it's just so hard with the PC and everything. So I think in that sense, the Quest might be that thing that's gonna bring it to the mainstream.
I know, because you were talking about bringing it to work, and I was like, dude, first you have to bring the PC, and then you have to bring everything, and then you have to set the Guardian system, and then you have to set the cameras, and then you have to bring a monitor, and then you have to plug it in, and so on and so forth. That's not gonna work.
Not gonna work. All right. Anyway. And what about the demos that they had at Connect? Should we talk about that?
Yeah, definitely.
A couple of the games. So they talked about arena scale. So did you see much of this demo?
No, I didn't actually.
So I think you've played the game Dead and Buried, right? It's that zombie game where you pretty much, it is a multiplayer game, but you're in a team and you go against another sort of team to shoot each other, the bones that are coming out of some cave or what have you. So for this demo at Oculus Connect, they had a 4,000 square foot space full of obstacles and boxes that you can kind of hide behind. So imagine what do you call that? What the shooting thing? What do you call it?
Time Crisis.
No, with real bullets, not pellets. Paintball. Paintball, yes, kind of like that without the paint and the ball. So you can put the Quest on. So you can have 8 or 10 people in this 4,000 square feet space and play Dead and Buried, and that was a demo. Now obviously tested that. So here is a clip on how that works.
6-player Dead and Buried. I mean, that's a different level kind of experience. And this is not something that they will support out of the gate. This is something that may be years away. But it proves that you can have multiple people sharing a same space.
Yep.
Right? How they're doing that, it seems like there's a dedicated server involved. This is not a peer-to-peer, game that's being played between the headsets strictly.
Right.
But they also incorporated an iPad into this experience, which is just, that's pretty cool. You could imagine that iPad that's walking around in this 3D space also being a player, having some sort of agency in that space.
Yes, I don't know if you can quite picture it, but you're in this sort of paintball type area, but everyone's got their Oculus Quest headsets on, and they're virtually shooting each other, but in the virtual world, but also in the real world.
It just got me thinking, these headsets must be pretty light. Because if you put an element of sport into this and you're running around with a headset, because there's no way I'd do that with the Rift, right? That's it's not heavy, but it's enough to hinder movement.
I think what Norm was saying, that it is substantially heavier than the Go, but I think that kind of works in its favor in this case, because the Go, it's so light that it doesn't quite snugly fit on your head. You need a bit of weight sort of forwards and backwards, I think. So yeah, it sounds like it's just the right amount of comfort level. The other demo was the Tennis Project Scramble. This one is, I don't know if you saw that demo, but they had like a little tennis space as well with a virtual net, and like you're sort of running around to the ball and hitting, right? So yeah, like do you want to hear that bit of clip from Tested? All right, here we go.
And that tennis game was one that required fast movement. You're swinging those controllers really quickly, which tells me that the refresh rates on these 4 cameras are very fast shutter. They're tracking this and they're approximating the movement, they're projecting forward, and they have to be reliable that way.
Yeah, the tennis game is interesting too because they allow for different size spaces, right? So it's a multiplayer game, 1v1, and you might be in your living room and I might be in mine. Your living room is not going to be the same size as mine, but I can't tell that. To me, it looks like you have the full tennis court. And if you walk to the edge of your space, you'll go on my screen to the edge of the tennis court. And so where I hit the ball to you isn't necessarily where you see the ball hit.
So they have to fake some of it.
They do. They fake it, but it's completely convincing.
So you probably get how nerdy these two are. Like you've heard a lot of Jeremy and Norm on this episode, but yeah, they literally go to every VR event, even AR, and they test everything literally. So getting a bit inside baseball there. I think what they're talking about is like the sort of the sense of scale gets a little bit weird because, like, yeah, I think depending on your space,
I can already think about how I'm going to cheat. By the way,
well, what's that?
So
have a small space?
Yeah, have a really small space because, I mean, the way I was playing this out in my head was, let's say I go to an actual tennis court and I play you in your house where you have a 1x1 space to play in.
Yeah.
Every step you take is going to be 5 of mine.
Yes.
Because it has to sort of do some sort of scale calculation and render it.
Yeah. I think so. I think that's what they're saying. But yeah, like, I mean, it's hard to tell without actually doing the demo. And I've never been able to experience that full freedom of movement because, you know, you can sort of argue that the wires for the Rift is subtle, but really it isn't.
Yeah, and plus I barely want to stand up using the Rift.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. All the games we play, you know, it's sitting down sometimes, especially, you know, the Star Trek Bridge Crew.
Yeah. Also, we're old.
Yeah,
I am.
I know. No, I'm feeling it. Trust me.
All right. The other announcement at the Quest launch was the ILM Industrial Light and Magic. They're doing a episode around Star Wars. Here's a little teaser. Should I play this clip?
Hey, hit it.
Okay.
You may wonder why I have brought you here.
So they're gonna have some VR content in Quest on launch.
I want this to be good, but how many times, whether it be Sony's VR system with the sticks or, you know, the first Rift, every time that there's a Star Wars thing, they never live up to expectations.
So I think this will be definitely a combination between like media content as well as a little bit of interactiveness, I feel. You could kind of like hear it through the trailer. I don't know. But one, it's Darth Vader. So I don't know that. Was it Sony or someone else? Lenovo, was it? I don't know. Whoever did the other Star Wars lightsaber experience, that was AR, right? But like, and we know ILM, they make really cool stuff, right? And if it's an exclusive thing for the Quest, hopefully it is for the Rift as well when it comes out. But yeah, that's going to drive at least the Star Wars fans, I think.
Yeah,
and this is a proper story. This is canon story.
Wait, this is canon?
Yeah. So they're going to be 3 episodes about Darth Vader, just after the Revenge of the Sith. So you're gonna see what happens in Planet Mustafa.
I think we definitely want to set the expectation here in the sense that this is a story game, not a game.
Mm.
I think ILM they're obviously, they're a grade A, triple A production company, and they're going to create something that's visually immersive.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't expect, a good game to come out of this. I think if anything, I'm going to treat this like a Telltale game where it's more about the story than the gameplay.
Yeah.
And I also have issues with episodic things.
Okay.
I know why they do it, to give themselves time, but they'll also make more money. So yeah, I think it'll be a good. You're right, definitely more of a media thing than a game thing.
Yeah. Anything else you want to cover about the Quest?
No, I think it's going to really take off with people who don't have a PC like we do, who obviously know that there's limitations to the Go, and you can take it on flights. So win.
Yeah, I just wanted to get a little bit into the future because, that's what this is really. And as you know, I'm all in with VR or even AR, maybe AR first, taking over our screens, right? So at the moment, I'm in front of two 21-inch screens, sort of producing the podcast. I also use the iPhone every day. That's like a physical screen, right? That you interact in the real world. I think in the next 3-4 years, we're going to transition into virtual screens that we can implement, manipulate and sort of make bigger, make smaller. We're not quite there for the resolution, but and also comfort level, but we're going to get there for sure, right?
No, I totally I think this will transform the workforce, and I'm hopeful that it will happen sooner than later.
Yeah.
I definitely want to use. I think that's my life goal, is to definitely at least use it at work once in my life.
Well, I think that's definitely going to happen in your lifetime, anyway.
Yeah, I can't wait for Jira and Confluence in VR. It's gonna change my life.
Yeah, imagine the more Minority Report style of moving stories. Now, Oculus is a Facebook company, so Facebook is all about social, and Zuckerberg talked at length about how Facebook is meant to connect the whole world, and VR is that sort of human element. Now, John Carmack, on the other hand, is a total opposite of that, and he doesn't really hide that fact. And I have this amazing clip from him. You're gonna love this one. Here's John Carmack being John Carmack.
Facebook is all about connecting the world. That's the mission there. So it does mean I'm a little bit out of step sometimes as the champion of the power of isolation, where I really do think that one of the superpowers of VR is the ability to isolate you often from your environment. That I used to talk about it, how you're respecting your media when you are just in the VR space watching the screen and there's nothing else distracting you. Or I say it's like headphones for your eyes.
How good is that?
That is that is a great analogy.
Yes, because how many people? I think you do it too, Kelvin. I see you do it a lot. Put headphones on, and that's your sort of signal to the world saying, "Hey, I'm busy over here. I want to get checked
and
out."
I'm not even listening to anything. No, I'm kidding.
You're listening to the Laser Couch, I'm sure.
Of course, over and over.
So it's very different ideology, but somehow it's like I feel like this is the perfect storm of minds, and there's the right sort of level of not conflict, but I don't know, bit of tension, right? And I think that's why I believe in the Oculus company, even though it is part of Facebook. So anyway, that's my little bit, and I think that's one of the reasons why I'm all in on Oculus at the moment.
Yeah, I also think they can both work. I think that just like in reality, where there are different kinds of people, whether you're extroverts or introverts, they coexist. And I really think that, hey, if you want to use your Oculus to have a party, go ahead. If you want to watch a YouTube video in 4K in a screen, a cinema screen, then do that as well in your own free time. I think, freedom of choice.
Well, in that sense, it's exactly the same as the smartphone. You can have isolating experiences, definitely, but also, be social on it. So yeah, I think that's a great analogy. Now, if you don't have anything else, I want to talk about Michael Abrash now, because he's the king. He's the chief scientist at Oculus, and Abrash and Carmack, they built Quake together. So a little bit of Michael Abrash. he was at Microsoft before that. He worked on Microsoft NT, I think he talked about. And it's a bit of a tradition these days at Connect, where he would come on for about 30 minutes and talk about the future, and he talks about his predictions. This year, he actually talked about his previous year's predictions and how they've gone. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Now, like, I won't get too technical, but like the technology of VR is the ultimate, sort of scientific endeavor, because you have to really understand the human body to make it all work, like make it seamless, to have you believe that you're doing something virtually, right? So there's a thing called foveated rendering, and I have talked about it, but let me just explain. Do you know what that is, Kelvin? Foveated rendering?
Probably not. Not
Okay.
even gonna try.
So when we look at reality, when we look out into the world, you sort of focus on one bit at a time, right? You have that one focal point. So that point of focus, it's in high resolution, even for our eyes. What's surrounding that in the periphery? You know it's there. You know it's real, but like when you're focusing on something else, you don't have to see the full resolution. The problem in VR at the moment, you need a massive GPU, a really powerful GPU, to be able to render everything, because you can't tell where your focus is. So this is a problem of rendering in VR. And foveated rendering just means, yes, somehow if we can track our eye movements and we know what we're focusing in VR, then you can just render that perfectly. Everything else can be sort of like this pseudo state, right? So I think 2 years ago, he said that technology was going to be like 6-7 years away, but right now he reckons it's going to be 2 or 3 years, and he shows some live demos of that. In that, so if you have a single point which is rendered 100%, but everything else is, say, at 5%, so you just see the pixels of 5% of those pixels for those other areas. But now with deep learning being so good, like if you apply deep learning and sort of with the 5% of actual pixels and try to get, the AI to work out what the rest of the space is, it does a pretty good job. So they're using deep learning to almost predict what those the shadow spaces should be based on 5% of the actual reality.
Yes, this is ray tracing all over again. But it is a little bit like that. It is about the manipulation of light almost. But in this sense, there's because you're in a 3D environment, distance is hard to mimic almost. We take for granted how much our brain is processing to tell you how far or how fast something is coming at you. And when you try to recreate this in a virtual environment, it's got to be hard as hell.
Yeah, and the brain takes a lot of shortcuts to give us that full, like pleasurable experience of living life, right? So this is what we're trying to mimic.
Yes.
And I love the science of VR. And so, sight is one thing, but he also talked about audio, like spatial audio. Like we just take it for granted that, if something happens behind you, you can almost pinpoint, even in terms of distance, like where that is or how far that is, right?
Yeah, and I think that is very apparent when you and I were in Facebook Spaces just not so long ago. Like I immediately know you were to my left because that's where the audio is coming from. But it had to be in stereo. I mean, it doesn't just mean like everything just comes into your left ear. You could hear echoes in my right ear. So it's all very impressive.
Yeah. So I think he's talking more about the resolution of the audio even. So like if you're in that sort of, fake space, but you have stereo sound and 3D sound and you know which side they're coming from, but then it still does sound quite digitized. So the technology he's talking about is like making it so real that it just feels like you don't even have headphones on. So he talked about how that's very close as well. And one other thing I wanted to talk about, eye tracking. I mean, eye tracking is probably the thing that's a few years away, but it is possible. We know that it's possible. So can't remember what I was going to say, but the overall message was that, like, even more than ever, like he knows that his predictions will come true, and certain things will happen faster than he thought than 2 years ago. So with that, I've got a Steve Jobs quote that he gave. So I'll just because he likes to sort of go back to the old days and sort of reminisce. And
Reminisce. Yeah.
you know, you can say what you will about Steve Jobs, but he was someone that knew what was going to come, right? He was the ultimate sort of sage in terms of technology and the adoption of technology. So here's Michael Obrash talking about that.
Steve Jobs negotiated 2 visits to see the super secret Alto in 1979. Here's what he said about that years later. And within 10 minutes, it was obvious to me that all computers would work like this someday. It was obvious. You could argue about how many years it would take. You could argue about who the winners and losers might be. You couldn't argue about the inevitability. It was so obvious.
Yeah, so this is what he feels and what I feel about what VR is. Like, it feels obvious to me. And yeah, like in 78, late 70s, Steve Jobs thought that as well about computing.
Yeah. I feel like the next, I'm not going to call Singularity, but the next big wave of technology is coming. I think we had that jump between PCs and smartphones. I mean, if 4 or 5 years ago you were to tell me that, some people just live on their smartphones day to day, I would laugh it off. But when you think about it now, there are a lot of people who only use smartphones. They don't have a computer. They don't need one. And I feel like the next jump smartphone innovation is slowing down to a crawl. I mean, how many cameras can you add to it? I just saw a YouTube video come up for the new LG V40 that has 5 cameras. So it's going to stop, right? So I think people then start focusing on VR. And when you think about which phone company is doing that, the only one is HTC. So I want
gotcha.
I want Apple to do it as well. I want people to start moving across. So as people start to see things slow down on their big money makers, they're going to have to diverge their spending a little bit.
Well, I think you could argue definitely Microsoft's working on AR and VR to a degree. Apple is definitely working on an AR device, glasses. So that would be the thing that takes this sort of technology mainstream. But ultimately, I think it's going to be mixed. So, Oculus, even Facebook are working on an AR device. I think they call it the, what was it? It's like a mountain something?
Everest.
Everest? No, that's something else. Anyway, so yeah, it will converge one day. They did also have a demo of how the Quest, using the Quest, like the hardware is there right now to be able to, with those 4 camera sensors, you can actually see the outside world, like in a silhouette. So I don't know if you saw that demo from Andrew Bosworth, who's the sort of the head technology guy for Facebook. So that passed through. So like in your headset, which is like putting blindfolds on, but through the cameras that pick out, the spaces around you, you could actually make shadows of people moving around in front of you, right? So this is the
creepy.
It is creepy, but like that tech's just gonna get better. Give it a couple of years, like you'll be able to like see yourself. I don't know.
Yeah, but also I think you see this in every sci-fi film where you can quickly scan your surroundings and pick up information about it. I look at you, for example. It'll immediately tell me that if you're a danger to me, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, that's gonna come, especially with AI.
But by the way, I downloaded Blade Runner 2049 on Oculus. It's a little game. It's a very short game, just kind of like a teaser sort of thing. But like that thing that you just described is in that game, and like when you experience that in the first person, it's quite cool. So you just sort of point to people, and you can sort of see, their history, who they are, what car they drive, that sort of stuff. It was really cool.
Yeah, then I don't know. The game I want to get is definitely Vox Machine. I can't say it. Machina.
That'll do.
Machine. I mean, I've been a big fan of MechWarrior as a kid, and this looks amazing. So yeah, we should all jump on it and see what that's like.
Yeah, you want to get it?
Yeah, definitely.
We'll get Dan on it as well.
Yeah, we'll do that. I don't know. Do we want to go on to the next couple of clips, or should we call it?
I think we'll call it. I'm pretty done with the clips, actually.
Yeah. No. So I hope you enjoyed the show in reality or virtual reality. You can check out all the other 109 episodes now at thelazycouch.com. Also on iTunes, Google Podcasts, soon to be on Spotify as well, I hear. Don't forget to search for us on all the social media networks. Once again, we love all the feedback, so leave us some on iTunes, email us, tweet us, do it any way you want. But yeah, tune in soon. This is Kelvin.
And Geoff out.
Ugh. I need to work on that outro.
That was fine. Have I got the music on louder this time?
No, I think because I moved my setup from my room back down. Everything is off. Everything is off. Like how can I have the mic so close to my face and it's still soft? Did I touch the volume or something? I don't know.
Yeah, it's looks like everything's in sync, kinda.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't tell. Hard to tell.
Yeah. No.
All right. That was it's kind of like babbled on quite a bit.
Yeah, but I felt yeah. I think it's been a while since we've done such a hardcore like tech one. But damn, you know a lot about this shit.
I watched a lot of videos, man.